major report has just dropped from Shams The Athletic that indicates the Sacramento Kings are targeting multiple stars ahead of this year's trade deadline from the Toronto Raptors. So we'll break down what Shams had to say, who on the Sacramento Kings that they could potentially offer back to the Toronto Raptors, and if a deal does end up making sense, as the Raptors do have a very interesting free agent situation, including the fact that the team is still kind of mid-level in the Eastern Conference right now. Our schedule will probably decide a few things in the coming days. So lots of stuff to break down. Before we do, folks, I've been saying on recent pods because it really helps out, but we are very close to 30,000 subscribers, and over half of the people watching these vids are not subscribed to the channel. So it would mean the world to me if you guys could hit that subscribe button. Huge milestone for the channel. So if you guys want to hit that sub button, it would mean the world to me. But let's dive into the news, because Shams The Athletic came out on his video sort of FanDuel chats and discussed the Sacramento Kings, who are a team that have been balling out in the Western Conference once again. Last season, they were third in the West, got knocked out by the Golden State Warriors in round one of the playoffs, but it's a tough matchup. It's always tough facing Golden State in the playoffs, but people weren't sure if it was just a flash in the pan, if the Kings would fall off coming into this year, because the entire NBA feels a lot better than it did last season, just looking at the overall talent, the improvement of teams across the league. But Sacramento has maintained their sort of high level of play, their upper echelon in the Western Conference, and apparently they are looking to add a star. And Shams basically came out and exactly said this, that the Kings are expected to be very aggressive leading up to February's trade deadline to potentially add a star level player. They're going to be involved in every star player: Pascal Siakam, OG Anunoby, and maybe Zach LaVine. So this is very interesting. Two Toronto Raptors named directly by Shams in this report, sort of discussing who could potentially be on the move to Sacramento and their big name hunting if they're trying to acquire these star players, because Sacramento has a lot of strong talent, a lot of interesting pieces on their roster, including all of their draft picks, which, could facilitate a big deal. Now, we heard this entire summer about the Raptors getting involved in star trades. Every other week, we're hearing more stars that the Raptors could end up going after, but this deal would sort of be in the opposite direction, the opposite sort of move, because it's unlikely we get a star. I mean, if this deal was going down, it wouldn't be to acquire Domantas Sabonis or a De'Aaron Fox. It more so to be get some younger talent and move off of some of our top guys, because both Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby are unrestricted free agents this summer. Everyone that's been following the Toronto Raptors kind of knows this based off it's how Masai Ujiri has to make all of his decisions, because if one of them walks, you are losing an extremely valuable asset for basically nothing. We let Fred VanVleet walk this summer. In recent years, we let Kawhi walk, Danny Green walk, basically Kyle Lowry walk. We only got Precious Achiuwa in return when we could have got a potential Tyrese Maxey package that was reported at that trade deadline. So, Masai Ujiri likely doesn't want to see, Pascal or OG Anunoby go for nothing, but he also doesn't want to trade them for pennies on the dollar. So it's an interesting dynamic, and all depends too on how the Toronto Raptors are performing, because there is a world where you extend Pascal, you give OG his money, and you figure it out in the future. You figure out what's going on. But the only way the Toronto Raptors do that is if they're performing at a certain level. And if, we're currently sort of at the bottom tier of the Eastern Conference playoff picture mix, but it's early in the season, and a lot of those teams are extremely close together. So the Raptors have also had a very difficult schedule to start off the season, so the next few games are definitely going to be indicative of how the Toronto Raptors will likely sort of pursue, and how the rumors are sort of go up and down of the rest of the season, because we're playing a lot of teams at our level, at our current record sort of state, including the Nets, the Pacers, the Magic, all these types of squads we need to get wins against. So definitely keep your eyes peeled, and don't expect a trade to come out of nowhere and shock everybody before these games go along. Again, Shams sort of indicated that it'll be closer to the trade deadline, but could the Sacramento Kings actually make a trade happen? Because they do, as I said, they have some interesting pieces. Looking at their entire roster, it's not going to be Fox, it's not going to be Sabonis, but they have some other interesting pieces. I mean, Harrison Barnes, if we're trading away a Pascal Siakam or OG Anunoby, I'm not that interested in bringing in sort of a guy like Harrison Barnes to be the centerpiece of a trade. I mean, his deal would be there to fill salary and sort of match things that are going on, and if the Raptors don't want to flat out tank, don't want to sort of nuke their entire roster, Harrison Barnes would be a nice sort of placeholder for either an OG Anunoby or a Pascal Siakam. But he's not going to be the centerpiece of a deal that I'm that interested in personally from the Sacramento Kings. Malik Monk can definitely get you buckets. He put up some wild stats for the Kings there. Kevin Huerter's in an interesting spot. He had a very cold start to this season, but showed why he was an absolute steal for the Sacramento Kings last year, plucking him away from the Atlanta Hawks and him being a key piece to their sort of playoff run and, being an upper echelon team in the Western Conference. So Herder will be a cool piece to come back, especially around with Scotty Barnes. Can definitely provide a lot of value at the shooting guard position. But the guy that I want, and whenever these Sacramento Kings trades appear into existence, he's the player that I'm always yelling at the camera, screaming at Masai Ujiri to get. And frankly, it's Keegan Murray. Because you look at his contract, and Keegan Murray's a guy making $8 million. He's on his rookie deal, so you got a few years where you have control of him, but he is a very promising piece. 4th overall selection in for the Sacramento Kings, and basically his stats this season: 14 points per game, 6 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 40% from the field, 28% from the three-point line. Again, his shooting splits are down this season, especially in terms of efficiency and percentages. Now, his usage rate has gone up a little bit. The Kings have had a weird start to the season, even though they've ended up winning a few games. But you can see for his career, including last year, but Keegan Murray's shooting close to 40% from behind the three-point line, an efficient score, gets the rim, he plays defense, he's athletic, and the biggest thing that really makes me enjoy Keegan Murray, because I thought that Kings-Warriors series was one of the funnest sort of series to watch last year in the playoffs. I watched every game of that, and Keegan Murray showed up on the biggest stage. He came out, he balled out, and was ready to go. And as a guy that's sort of primed, in my opinion, to take a major leap at some point over the next couple seasons into a guy that could potentially be one of the stars in the NBA. So the Raptors could get Keegan Murray back. One, it solves your sort of salary cap issues, so, things are sort of fixed up along those lines, at least in the short term. And 2, you're getting a piece that fits the Scotty Barnes timeline, that is a two-way guy, can facilitate, can shoot the three. It makes sense to bring in Keegan Murray. Now, would the Kings actually execute a trade like that? Would be tough, because personally, I don't think the Toronto Raptors are trading OG Anunoby. I'll say that here front. They wouldn't trade him for Damian Lillard. We're not trading him for any sort of piece that's not bringing a star player back. I think Masai Ujiri trusts that he'll be able to re-sign OG Anunoby, and the price might be lucrative. It might be ridiculous, but it's likely they're going to bring back OG, who, has been putting up some solid stats. I mean, he's only pretty young himself, 26 years old, not a young guy anymore, but definitely not washed or old or anything along those lines, about to enter the prime of his career, averaging about close to 16 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, all that type of stuff, 37% from behind the three-point line, all around his career averages and stuff. OG Anunoby, elite defender, we know what he provides. But Pascal Siakam, he's the guy that was in all the trade rumors this summer. He was dangled out for a really bad package from the Atlanta Hawks and DeAndre Hunter, Kobe Buffkin, a pick or so. Wasn't that interested in those potential deals, but Pascal Siakam being sent to the Sacramento Kings, he's been rumored there in the past. This season, his numbers are creeping back up after his really cold start, but 19 points per game, 7 rebounds, only shooting 24% behind the three-point line. I mean, Pascal Siakam for Keegan Murray, the Kings are definitely getting the better player, but maybe the Raptors in the future be set up better for having Keegan Murray onto the roster. So that's the piece I'd like to get in return. More realistically, it would likely be sort of a package of future picks, maybe a Kevin Huerter's your centerpiece and a Harrison Barnes sort of deal, looking at the sort of cap structure, just being realistic, being honest. Maybe a Davion Mitchell. Seems like the type of guy a Masai Ujiri team would like, given his intensity on the defensive end, his ability to shoot the three. Davion Mitchell's also a piece I wouldn't mind coming back to the Toronto Raptors, but again, the Kings have a lot of talent, they have a lot of assets, a lot of draft picks. The Raptors do decide to go in the direction of at least moving Pascal Siakam. They are a trade suitor that I'd be more interested in dealing with than the Atlanta Hawks, which are a team that was rumored all course of the summer, and the Blazers and these types of things. The Kings do have some pieces that would actually excite me as a Toronto Raptors fan. So let me know what you guys think about this deal potentially going down. It won't happen soon. I want to say that clearly on this video, but closer to the trade deadline, once we have a better feel for how this Raptors roster is looking, right, maybe they're the team that does end up acquiring Pascal Siakam. But folks, you guys best make a subscribe to the channel. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.